Hi, and welcome to Meetings in Math. Welcome to 6.3 and 6.4a, modeling the percent proportion and percent equations. Our essential question for today is, how can I solve problems involving percents? Today you will need your Jaguar Jots on section 6.3 and 6.4a, a pen or a pencil, you might need a highlighter, a calculator might keep things moving along quickly, your determination, bright ideas, and always bring your problem-solving skills. We're going to begin today's lesson looking at a bar model to help us visualize and find percents. So our first one's looking at this idea of finding 70% of 350. So this model right here, this bar is going to represent 100% of the entire thing. So if we have 100%, we have already broken it into 10 equal things. So if these are 10 equal amounts, they're each worth 10% of the entire portion. And the whole thing is 100%. So if the whole thing is 100%, that would mean that this whole thing right here is worth 350. So then what would that tell us if the entire thing is worth 350? How much would each one of those 10% boxes be worth? Well, if there's 10 of them, and if I divide 350 divided by 10, I end up with 35. So then I know that each box is worth 35. This is important for us to understand because from here, I can then talk about 70% fairly easily. I could then take 70% and figure out the total amount. So then 70% would be 7 of these boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then I have 7 of these boxes that I could talk about. So then 7 times 35 is 245. So I now know that 70% of 250 is equal to 245. So now let's look at another one. 6 is 30% of what number? So this one's looking at it a little bit differently. This one is saying 6 is 30% of what number? I don't know the grand total, but I do know that when I'm done, I have 6 of them. So I start off with that same idea of knowing that these are each 10%, and I do know something about them. Well, what do I know about each of these? Well, I know that when I get to 30%, I have 6 of them. So 30% would be these 3 right here. And that those give me a grand total of 6. So all of them together equals 6. Well, they need to be split up evenly. So to split those up evenly, there are 3 of them. Then that would mean that they are 2 each. Well, if each of those are 2, these are also each 2. And now I can find my grand total. Or I could have gone 2 times 10, right? Because I know there's 10 of them. And then I can find out what it is. And so this is just a matter of visualizing what's really going on with our percentages. So what is this? Well, 2 times 10 is what? 20. So there was 2 different ways I could have gotten there. I could have just added all those 2's up that I wrote down. And the answer to that is 20. Or I could have realized that there was 10 of them, and I could have said 2 times 10 was 20. So there's 2 different ways that I could have thought about it, but either one gets me to the right answer. So what percent is 4 out of 80? So now we don't know anything about our percents, but we do know that hopefully by breaking it into 10% again, we might get a good idea. So this time it is a little bit different in that I know my grand total. I know my grand total that when I have all of it, I have a grand total of 80. And I know that I have only 4. So I start breaking it out. Well, what would 10% be? So if I broke it into 10 pieces, so let's think about that for a second. So let's break our 80 into 10. So 80 divided by 10 is 8. So I now know that each of those 10% pieces are now each worth 8. How does that help me out? What percent is 4 out of 80? Well, I know 10% is 8. And I'm trying, my goal is to get to 4. 4. Well, 4 is less, but I think I can figure this out if I just stop and think about the 8 for a second. 4 is how much of 8? Well, I know that if I took half of 8, I get to 4. So what if I took one of these and I cut it in half? Wouldn't that leave me with 5%? And wouldn't there be 4 left in there? Because half of 8 is 4 and half of 10% is 5%. So I think I actually have an answer here that I'm happy with by looking at my picture. So what percent is 4 out of 80? 5%. That works for me. 5% is the same as 4. If I added up all these 4s, if I went and chopped each one of these into halves and I had 5%, I would have 25%, right? Because each one of them would be divided in half. And then I would have 24s. Do 24s equal 80? Yes. Do 25% equal 100%? Yes. So yes, this does make sense. Thank you so much for joining us in this very introduction of using bar models and using percents to help us figure out answers to problems, not just this nebulous talking about percentages. And what are some reasons you would not want to use a bar model? Be ready to talk about that. And if you can, explain it to somebody or explain bar models to somebody. Thank you again for joining us. And remember, be kind to one another because we all can use some extra kindness in our lives. Bye for now.